Hi, it's Linda Kroll, and I'm back because the first one didn't have sound. So I am here. To those of you who were there, I'm sorry that I wasn't available, but I am back now, and we are starting. So to the extent that you are here, welcome. And if you didn't miss the first one, that's all right. I'm going to do it again. So let's take a breath and bring ourselves present. Because the whole point of this 30-minute experience was to bring you more self-energy in an experiential circle. So let me bring you into my reality, where in my experience to offer to be of service, the technical glitches I just had would normally embarrass me, shut me down, make me regret even doing this work, but I am sending love to all those performance parts of myself and inviting you to listen to this as a replay to get the benefits of whatever you were hoping to get when you actually showed up. So let's take a breath, and I'm going to read a very short meditation because I want to give you the experience of being in yourself, even if it's just for now. So just for now, allow yourself to just be here. Just for now, there's no one you have to fix, save, or rescue. Just for now, you're going to realize that self-care is not selfish. And when you give yourself the time and benefit to take care of yourself in ways that are recharging, rejuvenating, you have more to give to the people in your lives. So whether you're here personally or professionally, whether you're wanting to bring more self-energy to your work, to your clients, to your family, and most of all to yourself. Because I always say that love is the answer, but it starts with loving yourself. And how loving are you being to yourself right now? The needs of the heart are attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance. But you learn how to give that to yourself. And when you give it to yourself, you never run out of it. But I know for myself, I'm often running on empty, running on the treadmill, reacting to my life in ways that I think are helpful, but they're not. And with all this going on in the world, with all the cacophony of the news, with what's happening in your office, what's happening in your family, what's happening in your personal relationships, and most of all, what's happening inside of you, in your brain, in your heart, in your energy field? Can you give yourself permission to come back to your higher self? My name is Linda Kroll, and for 35 years, I've been an internal family systems therapist, mediator, attorney, Chopra certified teacher of meditation, yoga, and Ayurveda. And what I do is I help people get to their higher self and bring that compassionate energy to themselves and to the people in their lives. And that's what I want to help you do today in this 30 minutes. So if you recognize that just taking a breath brings you more present, would you do it? In fact, put your hands on your abdomen and inhale, abdomen out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. Good. Inhale, abdomen out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. And now what you're going to do for just a few moments is to spend some time and see how we can compassionately communicate with ourselves and others. And when I talk about compassionate communication, I'm talking about connecting to your best self. In IFS, it's when we're calm, clear, compassionate, curious, creative, connected, confident. You know those moments. We're not always in self. We're often in parts. In IFS terminology, parts that we exile and push aside, parts that we manage with and show the world, and parts that we get extreme with when we need to numb out a little bit. For me, I often exile the parts of me that might be grieving the loss of my daughter. Maybe sometimes I exile the parts of me that are worried about my next course or next client or money. Maybe I'm exiling some of the feelings I have in my relationship that were never fully processed, but I push it aside. And I go out in the world, and you may too, and I manage. I manage by being hardworking. I manage by being a good therapist. I do my best to be a good mother. And I play my roles, And I do it sometimes from what feels like a pseudo-self, where I look like I'm quoting self, but I really have these feelings underneath that I'm not dealing with. So when I don't deal with them, I get extreme in some way. For me, I'll either spend 3 hours on Facebook Reels, maybe I'll eat too much sugar, maybe I'll isolate for a while. What do? What are you pushing aside that you're not dealing with and exiling? How are you managing your life right now and managing your work and managing your relationships? And what do you do to get extreme? And I'm going to do a meditation with you to show you how to have more self-energy with all the parts of you that might be triggered by anyone or anything at any time. And I want to show you that there's ways you can go to compassionatemediation.com. There's a lot of free gifts there. But there's also details about my upcoming certification that I'll tell you about at the end if you're interested, and my upcoming Compassionate Communication course that is a 4-week course to work with me live to bring more self-energy into your relationships, your work, your life. And both my courses have continuing education credits for therapists and coaches, and they're helpful for everyone. So let's take a breath and come back to, how are you being your best self? Are you being your best self? Are you eating right, sleeping right, drinking enough water, meditating, walking in nature? My answer is usually no, and that might be your answer too. And we all know we have to do more of that. But sometimes the expectations we put on ourselves is we have to do it all. And if we don't do it religiously and we don't do it consistently, it's not good enough. That's not true. You can make a decision right now to drink more water today. That will help you. You can make a decision right now to meditate for a minute, just a minute, because giving yourself permission allows you to disconnect from the cacophony of your thoughts and tune into the messages from your soul, your true self, your higher consciousness. And when you do that, you can renew and recharge. So take a moment and give yourself permission to meditate. Give yourself permission to journal, even a thought. Sometimes I find that if I journal, confession, I sometimes put my journal in chat, my new best friend, and chat will respond to me. And even though it feels hokey at the time, what it is, it's me witnessing parts of me that I don't pay attention to. And that's how you will bring more self-energy to your life, your work, and everything that you're doing, is practice exquisite self-care. And what I mean by exquisite, it doesn't mean it has to be perfect. It just means you make it a priority. You make your own self-care a priority for your life, because that's how you speak more from self. That is how you give more of your self-energy. And I often write in my journal, self, at the top of a page, and who can I help? And then I'll take dictation from a part of me that's looking for more attention that I'm not giving it. So I might need to spend some time with the part of me that's sad, or a part of me that's worried. And I'm inviting you to do the same, to connect to your best self in whatever way feels right for you, in small increments. And then when you compassionately communicate with yourself, you look at your limiting beliefs. You look at the judgments that you have about yourself and others, but you look at your family of origin. Where'd you get those beliefs? Do you still need to believe them? And you don't. You can show up, not from an ego-based perspective, but from a spiritual-based perspective where you meet life with a beginner's mind, where you meet life with what you're supposed to learn from it, not what's happening to you. And as you question your beliefs and make room for new ones, you can also unburden pain from the past. Because when you unburden pain from the past, you are free to create a new future that doesn't replicate the pain you had or project it into the future, but actually allows you to be present in the moment, fully present in your higher self, and experience more peace, love, and joy. And then once you've connected to your best self, let go of your limiting beliefs and judgments, unburden pain from the past, you relate from your heart. And I'm going to show you how to do that as an experience right now. So your clients, your family, yourself, we're all involved in relationships. And with every relationship, at some point or another, comes conflict. And bringing your higher self into any situation will change the situation. Like Wayne Dyer says, when you change the way you look at something, what you look at changes. So when you're looking at your life from a perspective of your reactive parts that get triggered, get angry, get sad, put up walls, look through filters and judge yourself and others, when you're looking at life that way, it looks crowded, it looks clouded, it looks dingy. But when you're looking from your higher self, the vistage that you see is much more expansive, where anything is possible. And that's what I want to help you do, because I'm going to do a meditation to help you get to self. So for now, let's look at how you bring your higher self into your relationships, whether it's with your clients, with your partner, with your child, with your parent, with a coworker, and with yourself. I recognize I don't always speak as compassionately to myself as I need to. I should on myself a lot. I've got performance and perfectionism, procrastination, all those P words. So just giving myself permission to be and giving yourself permission to be will take a lot of pressure off you. But now let's look at how you show up in a relationship. So think about someone right now who causes you conflict. And they might be triggering, it might be what they do or they don't do. It might be a client. I know sometimes when there are certain clients I know I'm going to see, I have to take some extra breaths and recognize that whatever part they're going to show me that might be angry or might seem stuck is actually a reaction to the pain they have underneath. So just bringing more self-energy into your office will be helpful. But let's take it personally for someone in your life. So picture the person who triggers you, with whom you have conflict, and just take a mental note of what do they do that bothers you? What do they say? What do they don't say or don't do? What do they do that triggers you? And then when you get triggered, what do you do? How do you react? And as you do that, you're going to recognize that you have certain parts that you react from. You either get angry, you might yell, you might get stoic, you might shut down, you might withhold. Notice what happens to you. Notice what you do, notice what you think, and notice what you feel. Notice those parts of you right now. And then I'd ask you, if I were talking to the person with whom you have conflict, what would they tell me about you? What do you do that triggers them? And then how do they react? What do they do, think, feel? And then I'd ask you, and I'm asking you now, with that person with whom you're envisioning being triggered, if you had a magic wand, what would be different? Because you can't change the other person. I mean, in a perfect world, they would change. They would be who you need them to be. There'd be no problem. But other than that, you can only change your reaction to that person. So if you had a magic wand, how would you feel? What would you be that would be more peaceful and calm and more self-led? And what's in the way of that? And that's where we'll start. And then I'd ask you, do you have a word for spiritual? As in God, higher power, nature, universe, God. And the reason I ask you that is because that's the word I use for self. In internal family systems, like I said, Dick Schwartz talks about calm, clear, compassionate, curious, creative, all those C words, and I add grateful. At the Chopra Center, we talked about higher consciousness, but when we're talking about bringing your higher self energy, we're talking about bringing compassion in. And it starts with compassion for yourself. So as you're thinking about this person with whom you're having conflict, I'm going to do the meditation I do with you, with everyone that comes in my office. So for 35 years as a therapist, individual counseling, marriage counseling, divorce mediation, teaching other professionals compassionate communication and compassionate mediation, this is the introduction and the guided meditation I do with everyone. Because what I'm listening for is how much self-energy do you have available, what parts of you are being triggered, and how can I help you have more compassion for your own parts so they calm down? And then you have more self-energy to show up for the people in your lives, your clients, your children, your parents, your friends, your partners. So let's go back to what happens when you start thinking about that other person and they're triggering you and they're making you upset or they're making you resentful or they're making you scared or whatever. Notice what happens to your body in this experience. Your body tenses, your body tightens, your body becomes difficult to regulate because you're dysregulated. Your parts are all being active. So what I want to offer you is the same thing I offer all of my clients for the last 35 years, even when I'm doing an interview on Zoom, which I do all the time now. And it explains self in parts. So here's the blurb, the 2-minute blurb I give all my clients. I believe we have a healthy self, capital S self. And when we're, quote, in self, we are calm, clear, and compassionate. You know those moments? They're usually just moments because we're not always in self. Instead, we're in parts. Parts that we exile and push aside, parts that we manage with and show the world, and parts that we get extreme with. And all those parts are trying to protect us. So if you notice that when you think about that other person and you're starting to constrict, I want to give you a felt sense of what being in self means. And then I get their approval, and I'm getting yours. Hopefully we can do this meditation together. And you'll get a felt sense of what it means to be in self and bringing that self experience to your life, to your work, to your relationships, and most of all to yourself. All right, so put your hands on your abdomen, and again, let's do 3 belly breaths. Inhale, abdomen out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. Inhale, abdomen out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. Last time, inhale, abdomen out. Exhale, belly button back to your spine. Good. And the reason I ask you to do that is because when you do that, you are bringing more self-energy. Your self is your soul, your spirit. It's who you are underneath all your reactive parts. When we're triggered, we get into the reaction of fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. And when we're in self, we can just be present, compassionately, calmly. So when you take 3 belly breaths, you're just making your parts allowed to relax a little bit so you have access to that self-energy. All right, so here's the meditation, and then I'm going to show you how to get your own version of the meditation for you to use with your own clients and your own family. All right, so gently close your eyes, let your breathing become normal. And as your feet touch the ground, imagine that they're growing roots to the center of the earth. And as those roots go deeper and wider, you're going to feel very firmly rooted and planted and grounded, like a tree or a mountain, so that whatever swirls around you isn't going to take you off your foundation. And then you're going to allow that nurturing energy to come up through your feet, your calves, your knees, your thighs, your hips, your groin, your stomach, chest, and into and around your heart with all the feelings that you have there. And then you're going to allow that nurturing energy to go up through your throat, behind your jaw, behind your eyes and your forehead, to the crown of your head, and then out the crown of your head, all the way to the sky. And then you're going to invite down from the sky, nature, universe, higher power, God, whatever out there for you. Invite down some energy that's very calm and very compassionate. And then breathe even bigger than yourself. So you surround yourself with this calm, compassionate energy of self. And then focus that compassion inward. Start at the top of your head and scan your body to the soles of your feet and just notice. Notice where you're feeling any tension or tightness. Notice all your thoughts. Notice your feelings. And as you notice your parts, let your parts notice you, being supported and surrounded by this calm, compassionate energy of self. And then what you're going to do for just a few moments is to allow yourself, if you would, to imagine going through a doorway into a beautiful scene in nature. The air is perfect, the sun is shining, and you see before you a path that you safely walk to the base of a mountain. And what you're going to do for just a few moments is to separate from your parts and go up as high up the mountain as you'd like. So ask any part of you that's tired, exhausted, overwhelmed, if they'll separate for just a few moments. Ask the parts of you that might be wondering what you're going to do next or what the next chore is, if they'll separate. Ask parts of you that are triggered by relationships you might be having, that might be angry or hurt or resentful or feel unloved or neglected. Ask those parts to separate for just a few moments. Ask the parts that judge yourself if they'll separate. Ask the parts that judge others if they'll separate. Ask the parts that carry filters about other people. They always do this, they never do that. Ask those parts to step back. Ask the parts of you that judge yourself to relax just a few moments while you go up in self as high up the mountain as you want. And if you're feeling any feeling or thinking any thought that isn't peace, it's just a part from which you can separate for just a few moments. And wherever you decide to stop on this mountain along the way or at the top, just rest and look at the view from up here. You may be aware of another presence, you may not. Either way is fine. And if you want, you can put your thumb and forefinger together to anchor this place as a place to come back to, because in just a few moments you're going to go back down the mountain. But before you do, in your mind's eye, picture the person with whom you are having conflict at the top of their mountain without all of their parts attached. And as much as you can, send compassion in their direction. So in just a few moments, you're going to go back down the mountain to collect your part, even if there's a part of you that doesn't want to. Because you're going to realize that once you give your own parts the attention they need to unburden the pain from the past, they carry their own wisdom and light. So taking back your parts ever so gently, come back down the mountain, back down the path, back through the doorway, and back to your room. And just rest for a moment. And just allow yourself to feel what it's like when you're not encumbered with the cacophony of your parts. Whether it's about yourself, about someone else, about a to-do list, about how something should be, but you're just present, calmly. It makes all the difference in the world. It changes your experience in the moment. It changes your perception of yourself. It changes your ability to show up and model self-energy to your clients. It changes your ability to relate to the people in your life that you love. As Dick Schwartz says, when there's a critical mass of self present, it doesn't matter who brings it. Sometimes I tell my clients to put up their little umbrella of self where they bring this calm, compassionate energy in. And then if they see somebody say or do something that would normally trigger them in a way that would hurt them and make them react, and then they'd be at it, they just let that energy fall off that umbrella and they come from their compassionate place. Now, you learn how to set boundaries. You learn how to say no. You learn how to ask for what you want and need. And in some relationships, you can do all that. You can come from your higher self. You can set appropriate boundaries. You can ask for what you want and need. And you're not going to get your needs met. So then you have some decisions to make as to whether you want to stay in that relationship. But even if you choose not to stay in the relationship, you can make self-led decisions that allow for a parting that's respectful and kind. This is all possible. It's possible to bring more self-energy to yourself by taking a breath. Just one breath, take it with me. And allowing yourself to be present. You can meditate a minute. You can lay on the floor and stretch. You can drink some water, go for a walk, journal, pray. There are a lot of ways to get to self. And then you can notice your own limiting beliefs about yourself or someone else, and the fact that you don't have to believe everything that you think. And when you make decisions from your higher self about what beliefs you want to hold on to, you can expand your horizons because you're not limited by the blinders of how you think you should be or how you need to manage. And then the more time you spend giving yourself the attention that you need from yourself, you can truly unburden pain from the past, pain that we've exiled or pushed aside, whether it's grief or fear or worry or anger. We can spend some time from our higher self with those parts of us, and then those parts transform. They don't have to carry the burdens they've been carrying. And it comes with giving ourselves the attention, affection, and appreciation that we need. So give yourself that attention, affection, appreciation, and acceptance, and decide what you want to focus on. And do you want more fulfillment in your relationship or your work? Do you want more fun in your life? Do you want more financial security? What is it that you want, and what's in the way of it? And the reality is, you can have what you want and need and learn how to ask for it when you're coming from your higher self. Because you compassionately communicate. You connect to your best self, let go of your limiting beliefs, unburden pain from the past, and relate from your heart. And when you're relating from your heart, you have empathy for yourself first. You recognize we're all under a lot of stress. We're all performance geared a lot of the time. We're all helpers and givers in many ways. But until we take time for our own self-care, whatever minimal step at a time we can do, we'll be reactive. We're reacting from our parts that we're trying to manage with and get extreme with. But it doesn't have to be that way. We can come from our heart in all of our relationships, starting with the one we have with ourselves. And I want to give you some ways to continue to work with me, because if you go to compassionatemediation.com, I have free gifts for you there. I have a relationship assessment where you can check out your relationship. I've got a care kit where you can get this meditation that I just gave you and the relationship assessment. You can get my roadmap at lindakroll.roadmap.com/roadmap, which talks about compassionate mediation. And for those of you who are interested in working with me, my compassionate mediation coaching certification is starting soon, and I'd love to help you learn more about it because it works with compassionate communication and then everything you need to know to help people resolve conflict. But the one that's coming up soon is my compassionate communication course. And if you go to compassionatemediation.com/CC course, you're going to get all the details. We start in February. We meet for 4 weeks live for 90 minutes, and it becomes a sanctuary for healing, a sanctuary for inspiration, a sanctuary for connection, because so much of what we do as professionals is alone, is on our own, is without support. And I know we have all the training we could need, but learning how to compassionately communicate with ourselves, learning how to offer that to our clients, can make such a profound difference in the work we're able to do and the work we're able to share. So please join me. I'd love to have you join me in the certification. The Compassionate Communication course is starting now, and both the course and the certification offering continuing education credits for those of you who need them as a therapist or coach. Because in my 35 years of working with individuals, couples, doing mediation, training hundreds of professionals around the world in compassionate mediation. Like I said, love is the answer, but it starts with loving ourselves. So my hope for you in our 30 minutes is that you find a way to be more loving with yourself today, to do something loving for yourself today, and hopefully you're motivated to learn more about how we can continue to stay in contact, and I can continue to provide whatever guidance, support, inspiration I can. And I also invite you to join me on Substack. I have a Substack account, lindakroll.substack, and all of my writings are there because I find that When I share both personally and professionally, it touches a nerve. It makes a difference. So I'd love you to meet me wherever you are, to let me support you however I can. I thank you so much for listening. We did it in 30 minutes. This is the second one because the first one didn't have sound. I'm sending you a lot of love. Thank you for hanging in, and bless you. I hope to stay connected, and we'll talk again soon. I'll put the website up one more time so you can find whatever you want in my compassionatemediation.com website. I look forward to seeing you, and thanks again for being here. Sending a lot of love. Bye for now.